Imagine you try to log into a website but you do not know the password and you still type something in the login box and you logged in. This is called SQL injection, and today I will show you exactly how it works using real vulnerable applications. To understand SQL injection, you first need to understand how actually login works behind the scenes. So when you enter your email and password, website sends a query to the database which looks something like this. Select star from users where email is some user input and password is user input, and then the database checks if the user exists, and if yes, then login is successful. But the problem happens when developers trust this user input blindly. If the input is not handled properly, then attacker can inject SQL code into this query. And at that point, the attacker is not just entering the data, they are controlling the query itself. Now I will demonstrate this using OWASP Juice Shop, a deliberately vulnerable application which is created for security training. So first we'll go to the login page, and instead of entering a real email, I will type something like this. And password can be anything, and here I'm literally typing anything, and click login and see we are inside. Now let's understand what happened. The original query was select star from users where email is equal to the user input and password is something which user will type. But after injection it becomes something like select star from users where email is user input or 1 is equal to 1, the query which we have given, and we all know that 1 is equal to 1 is always going to be true, and this comments out the rest of the query. So the database thinks the condition is valid and grants access. This is authentication bypass using SQL injection. There are multiple types of SQL injections like in band, out of band, blind SQL, but in this video we'll talk about three main types of SQL injection. First is authentication bypass. This is the most common type of SQL injection, and here the goal is simple: log in without knowing the password, and this is exactly what we just demonstrated. Second is error based SQL injection, and in this type attacker intentionally causes database errors to extract information. So for example, attacker can type something like this, and if the database throws an error, attacker learns about the database structure. Third is blind SQL injection, and this is more advanced. Here the application does not show any error, but attacker sends true or false conditions like this and this. So by observing application behavior, attacker extracts data step by step. This is slow but extremely powerful. If you are wondering if SQL injection is still relevant today in 2026, then the answer is yes. SQL injection is one of the oldest web vulnerabilities, but it still exists, especially in legacy applications, internal enterprise tools, or poorly developed websites. If you see OWASP top 10 table and compare 2021 and 2025 vulnerabilities, you will see that injection has shifted from number 3 to number 5, but the ranking shift means others are now overtaking it in the risk priority, though injection remains serious. Injection is still a major risk category. It includes high impact and high frequency vulnerabilities, so dropping it in rank does not mean it is safe. SQL injection is not a hacking trick, it is just a coding mistake, and the solution is actually simple. The developer should never mix user input directly with the SQL queries. Instead, we can use prepared statements and queries, and this ensures user input is treated as data and not executable code. Even if attacker enters malicious input like we did in the example, the database treats it as a plain text, and this completely prevents SQL injection. Now here's a question for you. If a website hides all the database errors and the responses look normal, then how would you detect blind SQL injection? Comment down your answer and we will discuss this in the next video. Thank you for watching.